Reagan was the savior of modern conservatism. Goldwater was clearly, John the Baptist to Reagan.
Ronald Reagan, who was a former grade B movie actor, made a speech for the Goldwater campaign for president in 1964. It ran on national television, and it was an overnight success.
Barry Goldwater has faith in us. He has faith that you and I...
And it was people who were brought up in the Goldwater movement who later were responsible for nominating and electing Ronald Reagan.
Today's conservative ascendancy was built out of the ashes of Goldwater's loss.
We didn't win a lot of elections back in the 50s, early 60s. But then in the mid-70s, conservatives figured out what we were missing, and that was the social issues. Traditional values and a lot of issues dealing with family, home, community. And we began to add that element to our political rhetoric.
And the perverts, and the liberals, and the leftists, and the communists coming out of the closets. It's time for God's people to come out of the closets, out of the churches, and change America. We must do it.
Some of the conservatives from the 50s and the 60s were uncomfortable with bringing the social issues into the arena. And Goldwater was one of those people.
He thought that they had no business being in areas like abortion and, sex. Just one thing after another. He just was appalled that this had become sort of the growing principal concern of the Republican Party.
Noting that he had promised to appoint the most qualified woman I can possibly find to the Supreme Court, Mr. Reagan this morning announced he had found such a woman.
I will send to the Senate the nomination of Judge Sandra Day O'Connor of Arizona Court of Appeals for confirmation as an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court.
The White House has received thousands of letters and telegrams opposing Judge O'Connor's nomination from right-to-life groups.
During my nomination, there was some criticism from one or two people who weren't too happy about it. Barry Goldwater had been a senator for some years. When my name surfaced, he immediately spoke out in support. Like most things with Barry Goldwater, it was a black or white proposition. He was for you or not.
What do you want to talk about, the Air Force or Chile?
Judge O'Connor.
Oh, Sandra O'Connor.
Pro-choice would have been part of his kind of libertarian thing. It was kind of like, hey, you know what I mean? Man goes out in the West, you got your land, you farm it, you take care of yourself. Government shouldn't tell you what to do.
If it's going to take a fight, they're going to find old Goldie fighting like hell. I'm probably the most conservative member of Congress, and I don't like to get kicked around by people who call themselves conservative on a non-conservative matter. This is not a conservative issue. Abortion is not a conservative issue. It's a question of who's best for the court.
The Reverend Jerry Falwell says that good Christians should be opposed to Sandra O'Connor.
Well, you know what I said about good Christians.
No, what did you say?
How was that again, Senator?
Well, I don't think I can use it on the air, but ass...
We'll not be the judge of that.
Ass isn't the dirt. I said all good Christians should kick him in the ass. When it comes to the place that these groups try to take away the power of the American citizen, then I have to take exception to it. That's not tasteful. I don't like to do it. But I will oppose this abuse of constitutional power any place that I have to.
When they finally voted on my nomination, and there were no negative votes, he came in and got me, and the two of us went out on the steps of the Capitol, and there were hundreds of cameras and news people, and there he was.
Do you still feel about Jerry Falwell the same as you did one other time?
Oh, I might aim a little higher.
You mean kick him in the head?
No, not that high.
This was before the age of comprehensive poll taking and image consultants and focus groups and people who come in and say, "Don't wear earth tones, it makes you seem nicer," or "Not that necktie, please." I mean, can you imagine telling that to Barry Goldwater? I mean, he'd throw you out of the room.